What if the biggest disruption in American politics wasn't a politician, but an engineer? In a nation where political lines are drawn in concrete, we're witnessing the fracture of one of the most powerful alliances of the last decade, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. But this isn't just about a war of words between two titans. This is about a seismic shift happening just beneath the surface of our political landscape. Consider this. A recent Gallup poll revealed that a staggering 63% of Americans believe the Republican and Democratic parties do such a poor job representing the American people that a third major party is needed. That's not a fringe opinion. It is a silent majority. Now add this number. The U.S. national debt is soaring past $34 trillion, a figure that grows by roughly $1 trillion every 100 days. It's this economic powder keg that Elon Musk claims is the motivation for his proposed America Party. Today, we move beyond the headlines. We are diving deep into the hard data, the historical precedents, and the very real possibility that Musk's billions could do what no one else has: permanently fractured the Trump coalition. Could a top-down movement fueled by immense wealth succeed where grassroots efforts have failed? Or is this simply a new chapter in a very old American story? Stay with us as we unpack the evidence. And if you appreciate nuanced, data-driven analysis that respects your intelligence, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Fragments of Stoicism. Now, let's get into it. The feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk has devolved from a powerful partnership into public spectacle. Trump now labels Musk as off the rails, while Musk has pledged to withhold funding from the Republican Party, instead channeling it into his own vision for America. To understand the potential impact of this, we need to look at the structure of modern American power. Our political system has become increasingly top-down. It's a reality where singular, wealthy individuals can wield influence that rivals and sometimes surpasses traditional party structures. We saw this with Michael Bloomberg, who spent over $1 billion of his own fortune on his 2020 presidential campaign. While he didn't win the nomination, his spending dramatically altered the advertising landscape and conversation in key states. On the other side of the aisle, figures like George Soros have funneled hundreds of millions into progressive causes, shaping district attorney races and policy initiatives nationwide. This is the context for Musk's threat. It's not just about starting a party. It's about a strategic withdrawal and redirection of capital. When Musk says he will fund an America Party, he is sending a clear message. Not only will my money, and potentially the money of my network, be withheld from Republican candidates, but I will actively use it to punish the party I once supported. In an era of razor-thin election margins, this is not an idle threat. A few $1 million in key congressional districts or a Senate race can be the deciding factor. This introduces a conflict that is rare in American politics, a battle between a plutocrat and a populist who controls a major party. As John Kenneth White, a professor emeritus of politics at Catholic University, notes, if you have a dictator versus a plutocrat, the dictator who controls the political apparatus usually wins. Trump's control of the GOP is unprecedented in the modern era. Unlike Franklin D. Roosevelt or Ronald Reagan, who had to negotiate with and mollify dissenters within their own parties, Trump's party exhibits near total allegiance. Dissenters often find themselves in political exile, primaried out of their seats, or simply choosing not to run again. The Republican National Committee has in many ways become an extension of his campaign. So on one hand, you have the immense, rigid power of Trump's political machine. On the other, you have the fluid, immense financial power of Musk. He is threatening to use his resources not necessarily to win, but to play the role of a spoiler. ensuring that Republicans lose in critical contests. But Musk isn't just relying on his wallet. He's tapping into a deep, pervasive dissatisfaction that has been simmering in America for decades. This isn't a new phenomenon. Trust in government has been on a steady decline since the Vietnam War. According to the Pew Research Center, in 1964, 77% of Americans said they trusted the federal government to do the right thing just about always or most of the time. Today, that number has plummeted to a historic low of just 16%. This distrust is the soil in which third-party movements grow. We saw it with the Tea Party movement in 2010, a grassroots explosion of conservative anger against the bank bailouts and the Affordable Care Act. It wasn't a top-down creation. It was a genuine, bottom-up surge that ultimately pulled the entire Republican Party to the right. In many ways, the most direct ancestor to what Musk is attempting is the 1992 presidential campaign of Ross A. Perot. Perot, another self-made billionaire, capitalized on the exact same voter dissatisfaction. His core issue was the national debt, which at the time was around $4 trillion, a number that seems almost quaint today. Armed with simple charts and a non-nonsense demeanor, Perot resonated with millions. He captured 18.9% of the popular vote, totaling nearly 20 million Americans. While he won no electoral votes, many analysts believe he drew support away from incumbent President George H.W. Bush, paving the way for Bill Clinton's victory. The Perot phenomenon demonstrated that a campaign centered on fiscal responsibility could mobilize a significant portion of the electorate. Musk is making the same bet, but with a debt that is nearly 9 times larger. However, the history of third parties in America is largely a history of failure, and for very specific structural reasons. They are often, as one historian put it, like Roman candles. They burn brightly for a moment and then fade away. The reasons are twofold. First, the election laws in all 50 states are written by Democrats and Republicans, and they are designed to maintain the two-party duopoly. Ballot access rules, debate inclusion criteria, and campaign finance laws create enormous hurdles for any insurgent movement.
Second, and perhaps more importantly, any good idea a third party has is inevitably absorbed by one or both of the major parties. After Perot's stunning performance in 1992, President Bill Clinton and the Republican-controlled Congress of 1994 both adopted the language of balanced budgets and fiscal discipline. They acted as giant vacuum cleaners, sucking the lifeblood out of Perot's movement. By 1996, his support was cut in half, and by 2000, his Reform Party was a shadow of its former self. This raises the critical question for Musk. Does he have a core idea that the major parties can't or won't co-opt? His focus on the national debt is potent, but both parties have proven adept at paying lip service to the issue while continuing to increase spending. The most successful third party in American history offers a different model. The Republican Party itself was born as a third party in the 1850s. It didn't start with a billionaire in a boardroom. It started as a grassroots, bottom-up movement of abolitionists, former Whigs, and Free Soilers united by a single, powerful moral cause: the opposition to the expansion of slavery. It built its foundation from the ground up, winning local and state elections before capturing the presidency with Abraham Lincoln in 1860. This is the fundamental challenge for Musk. His movement is entirely top-down. It is the product of his vision, his wealth, and his personality. For it to survive, it must eventually build a base from the bottom up. So far, there is little evidence of that. Perhaps the most potent parallel is not with Perot, but with President Theodore Roosevelt. After his presidency, Roosevelt grew deeply dissatisfied with his hand-picked successor, William Howard Taft. Feeling the Republican Party had been captured by corporate interests, he launched a third-party bid in 1912 under the Bull Moose Party banner. Because Roosevelt was a former and immensely popular president, he achieved unprecedented success. He won 27.4% of the popular vote and 188 electoral votes, decisively beating the incumbent Republican President Taft. However, by splitting the Republican vote, he handed a landslide victory to the Democrat Woodrow Wilson. This is the scenario that should worry the Trump campaign. Musk is no Teddy Roosevelt, but he doesn't need to be. In an era where the presidency can be decided by fewer than 50,000 votes spread across 3 states, a third-party candidate doesn't need to win 27% of the vote. They only need to win 1 or 2% in the right places, like Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin, to completely alter the outcome of the election. This brings us to the core of the issue, the apparent fracturing of the Trump coalition. A political coalition is not a monolith. It's an alliance of different groups who have agreed to set aside their differences to achieve power. Trump's 2016 coalition was a masterful, if unconventional, assembly. It combined traditional evangelicals, rural voters, and fiscal conservatives with a new group of working-class voters, including a surprising and growing number of Hispanic voters. Now we are seeing signs of stress in that alliance. First, on the economy. Trump's signature policy of high tariffs creates a direct conflict with the traditional pro-business free trade wing of the Republican Party. While it may play well at a rally, CEOs and business owners, the very people who fund the party, secretly agree with Musk that tariffs are detrimental in a 21st century global economy. They create uncertainty, raise costs for consumers, and invite retaliatory measures. This creates a silent rift between the populist rhetoric and the economic interests of a key GOP constituency. Second, on immigration. Trump's promise of mass deportations is a cornerstone of his appeal to his base. However, it is causing significant concern among another group he made inroads with, Hispanic voters. In 2020, Trump earned approximately 38% of the Hispanic vote, a modern high for a Republican. This support was built on a message of economic opportunity and traditional values. But recent polling from Axios Ipsos shows that while a majority of Americans, including many Hispanics, support deporting all undocumented immigrants, there is deep division on the specifics. For many Hispanic families, who are often of mixed immigration status, the idea of universal deportations without due process is a direct threat to their communities and families. This could erode the gains Trump has made. Musk, an immigrant himself, seems uniquely positioned to exploit these fractures. His politics are erratic and hard to pin down. He is a green energy CEO who has enabled an anti-climate science president. He is a fierce free speech advocate who runs his company with an iron fist. He is a fiscal conservative concerned about the debt, yet his companies like Tesla have benefited from billions in government subsidies. This political weirdness, however, might be an asset. He could theoretically appeal to a libertarian-leaning Republican who is tired of the culture wars, a suburban voter who is fiscally conservative but socially moderate, and a tech-oriented young person who is alienated by both parties. Musk's stated strategy is not to build a national party overnight, but to flood the zone with money in a few key high-stakes races. With the House of Representatives controlled by a margin of just a handful of seats, this approach could be surprisingly effective. If he can identify and fund a few Thomas Massey-style libertarian-leaning Republicans or independents in swing districts, he could create a small but powerful coalition in Congress. He wouldn't control the chamber, but he could hold the balance of power, forcing the leadership of both parties to negotiate with him. It's a strategy of creating leverage. In the end, the emergence of a figure like Elon Musk into the political arena, regardless of his ultimate success, should be seen as a powerful catalyst.
American history teaches us that crucial conversations and groundbreaking ideas often come from outside the established two-party system. Musk's focus on the $34 trillion national debt forces a conversation that both parties have conveniently ignored for years. With entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare facing insolvency within the next decade, this is not a theoretical problem. It is an impending crisis. By making this his central theme, Musk could reawaken a sense of fiscal urgency that our nation desperately needs. Furthermore, a figure from the world of technology and innovation could inspire a new generation of voters who feel alienated by the current political climate. His data-driven, problem-solving approach suggests that our nation's challenges can be met not just with ideology, but with creativity, efficiency, and a first principles way of thinking. Ultimately, even if the America Party never elects a single candidate to a major office, its existence serves a vital democratic function. It applies pressure. It forces the two major parties to listen more closely to the electorate, lest they lose support to a new alternative. The competition of ideas is the blood life of a healthy republic. Whether Elon Musk is building a political rocket that will reach orbit, or just a Roman candle that will dazzle for a moment before fading, its launch sends an undeniable signal to Washington. That signal is that the 63% of Americans who want another choice are no longer silent. The political landscape is being disrupted. The only question left is who will be the one to write the new rules.